So ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce you to the female powerhouse, Miss Kimberly Kovacs.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. So good to see you. It's been a
You.
while. How's Sophie doing?
She is so healthy and doing so great. She is thriving. She's off treatment for over 8 months now, and we actually are really enjoying life, even though we're stuck in home, probably like you
I was
are.
going to say, yeah. Well, I'm stuck in my virtual office over here at ArcView, but no, it was great. And one of the most precious moments I had, we were doing a panel together for a group of advertisers in Los Angeles, and Sophie came on stage and asked if she could recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
She
And it
did.
literally brought the place down in tears. It was just such an emotional thing. So anyway, thank you for that. And thanks for being and letting me be here. I'm really excited about, cannabis and hemp and, just the whole thing. And so in trying to decide what to talk about this morning, today during this webinar, there's a lot of great speakers lined up, people who are experts in the industry, such as Tracy and others. You're going to be hearing from some great companies. But what could I share that is really relevant, I think, for a lot of you out there, and from an ArcView perspective, which to me is really a playbook, and how to invest in hemp, and kind of what do investors really look at when they go through and they're making their investment decisions. And so we're going to have kind of a 4 or 5 step approach to this overview. I'm going to try to go, sort of as quickly as I can through some of it, and then spend some time on the more important stuff. But the first one, and as an angel investor myself, and by the way, I joined ArcView several years ago before taking the helm as CEO. But really what it is, get educated. And what I mean by educated is really understand the industry in which you're going to invest in. And in this case, hemp is the industry that we're talking about. And so there's a lot of different places to go. So we've got ArcView Market Research, which we do in conjunction with BDS Analytics, and we put out industry reports and so forth. Some of them are free, some of them you need to pay for. As a member of ACA, BDSA has a free white paper about the hemp industry and how it's different from THC and various things like that. The other thing that's really interesting is there's a lot of governmental sources, especially as hemp now is legalized in the US. Department of Ag, and so that's their website right here, has a lot of really interesting information about farming and what the Department of Agriculture, their oversight in this industry. We also have NCIA, and there's a whole host of others. So, the first thing I would say is, really get educated about what this industry is all about. And then the second part of that is not just getting educated, but now to start to deep dive and start doing research. So as a cannabis investor, that's what I did initially. I took the time to understand what the industry was about. And then secondarily, I started to get real granular on the different parts of the industry that I was going to then be interested in. So what is it, right? Which states or regions can you actually go into and see? Can you invest, ubiquitously between, different states in the United States? Absolutely. There's a lot of now hemp legislation that is really, directed state by state. And there's actually this really interesting site called the National Conference of State Legislatures. And they produce a report down here, this link at the bottom on the left-hand side, of different states that have different hemp type laws. So some allow farming, some allow consumption and production and different things like that. So understanding which state laws have will also help you kind of create this, what I'll call investment thesis around hemp in this playbook. The other thing is, what kinds of hemp-based products do I want to go after? Tracy was mentioning, the effects of CBD and things that we can ingest and take either in our body or on our body as topicals. That's the CBD market. But there's a lot of other things with hemp too. There's the industrial applications, there's textiles, there's, food and grain and different things in different parts of the hemp industry. There's technology, there's banking solutions. And so I think, as we start to kind of really look at this and you decide which areas you want to invest in, really understanding those nuances and differences. So then the next thing I would say as a newly minted or soon to be hemp investor is don't do it alone. Okay, so when I was first investing in cannabis, I made a couple of investments, one in an ag tech company actually, and we killed the cannabis plant. And that's because I didn't know enough about the science of the plant, but I knew about technology and I knew about some of the biotech enhancements that we were working with in other types of plants like grasses and ornamentals, but cannabis was so unique. And so for me, joining ArcView and being able to join forces with people who really understood this industry was paramount for me to start making some wise decisions. And so ArcView has a big history. We've been around for 10 years. We see, literally thousands of different companies a year. We select the top of those to come and present to our members. We also have what's called the ArcView Collective Fund, where we also see another layer of companies and do a collective membership review of those. So we've invested over $300 million into the cannabis industry, ArcView has. And we also have about 25 SPVs that we're still managing and growing within this industry. So now that you've been educated in the industry, now that you've done your research and you've decided to join forces with, let's say, a group like ArcView, what is it that you want to invest in? And so this, to me, is sort of the fourth step in creating your playbook, which is create a thesis. And I did two examples on here because this is actually two areas that I'm interested in. And I would say pick at least two, maybe three different parts of the hemp industry that are interesting for you, that maybe you can bring some personal experience. So for me, it's technology, and I really enjoy biotech and also things around, I would say, core technologies like fintech and others, and then also CPG companies. And so here's some things that I've created for my own investment thesis that I want to hold true to as much as possible, but it also helps me create an opportunity to get matched through the ArcView platform with the type of company that I'm interested in. And so, for example, on a CPG company, do they have more than one product? Are they currently in revenue? Do they have a solid marketing and social media strategy? What about their competitive analysis or positioning? And the other part for me is, do they have CPG experience? So they need to have someone on their team or in their advisory that has that experience, especially in the market they want to go in, which is really critical for us as we were doing MyJane, for example, and understanding the women's market. Then let's say I want to invest also in the biotech sector. So the companies that I'd be looking for, are they international or not? Do they have patents, or are they working toward getting patents in their space? Is the market large enough for what that particular biotech company is solving for? And again, do they have the right leadership and team? And if they don't, do they have the right advisories? So these are the things that I sort of really take note of. And I create, as I said, this playbook. But as I start to really delineate the specifics of my investment thesis, it helps me get matched with companies like Wolf or BevCanna coming out of our ArcView platform, so that I can start to see the companies that really make sense and match for me. So the last thing I'm going to say, which I could probably go on for many more hours in talking about cannabis investing, but is to seek great advice. So the show that you're going to see today is going to give you some nuggets of information, and I would say absolutely keep doing that. So things that we're talking about right now, our members are talking about. Do you invest in private companies or public companies? There's a lot of, things happening right now in the public space. So maybe private company is a place to go. Are brands a good bet right now? We're focusing on consolidations and different things. But one thing that's really interesting with brands right now, Tracy, and this is something maybe you guys are looking at too, is, there's some net new consumers with COVID and all these other things and focusing on health and wellness. And so, we're looking at those too, and net new categories like beverages. Those are pretty hot right now, or cold. And then the other one is like new things that kind of give you a new view. Are they global? Are they long-term? Like things like biofuel and textiles, some really cool stuff happening there. So anyway, so just to kind of recap is really understand the industry, get some research under your belt, build up your own thesis. This is a team sport, and welcome to ArcView.
Kim, with the COVID-19 and what's going on with that currently, how have you guys really pivoted your view on companies? Because I know there's been so many companies out there struggling to really make it in this new environment. It's been a mess in cannabis. I haven't been able to pay as much attention to hemp because we haven't quite dove into that side of things yet. But what are you seeing change, and how are you pivoting in how you choose companies to actually invest in?
Yeah, so it's, great point. And absolutely, the investment community has pivoted and is looking at things very opportunistically. So a couple things. One is deliveries and what I'd say touchless technology solutions are really hot right now because, consumption is up. I mean, that's the beauty of this whole thing.
Yes.
I mean, unfortunate that we're in COVID, but, people are really turning to cannabis as opposed to, other things like, alcohol or whatever. And so, consumption numbers are up. People do not want to go into a dispensary, so they want it delivered. And they also want the touchless technology, so they don't have to handle cash, which actually leads into another point, which is really promoting legislative change for like the Safe Banking Act. So there's all these really positive things. I mean, we were deemed essential. Going from illegal to essential, I mean, what, in 18 months? That's insane for California. So we have so much opportunity. And I think, the entrepreneurs are getting realistic now. They're being very cash efficient. They're being really smart with what they're doing. And those that are doing that right are getting funded.
I have one more super quick question from the audience.
Yeah.
We only have like 1 minute left, but due to recent C-19 lockdowns across the country, many states, counties, and cities have suffered from drastic reductions in tax revenue, sales tax, hotel taxes, etc. Do you foresee more states, countries, and cities legalize marijuana medicinally or recreationally due to the new tax revenue? And we have about a minute to answer that.
Yes, so I would say 100%. In fact, there's more cannabis regulatory or cannabis legalization on the dockets for city councils than ever before, especially in California. And I was actually a little disappointed that Anaheim punted it, but they were going to actually make a decision, which they've been punting this decision for a long time. But just think about that. Disneyland's been closed. Mm-hmm. How much revenue has been coming from Disneyland to the city of Anaheim on an annual basis? A lot, right? And they're going to have to fill that void, and cannabis is really a great solution. And because they're looking at their neighbor next door, which is Santa Ana, having, no additional crime, actually cleaning up the streets because of the revenue they have. I mean, there's a lot of positives. And so Anaheim's looking at that going, maybe we should. And they are. So if you look at the city dockets of these city councils, you're going to see a lot more cannabis as a potential solution there for them.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. It was so great to see you today. Wonderful.
Thank you. Have a great show today. I can't wait to see the rest of it.